Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to SP Reviews, where today we're going to be checking out a track from an act named the Despair Collective, titled Bleed. And if we switch over to here, we have it on the screen here on Music B. We're going to listen through this track from start to finish. We've listened to Your Say before, so this will be my second outing with them, which is cool. And yeah, we're going to start, finish, hear what we think. Let's go. We've also got lyrics to check out after this as well, just to make sure I haven't missed anything in the story, you know? Nice to start with these steel string guitars, though. It's a lot, digging that acoustic vibe. It contrasts quite a lot with Your Say, doesn't it?
Endless fights, the darkest nights I argue with myself. You say you'll change, it's all the same and nothing ever helps.
I mean, there's a lot to appreciate in the guitar, bass, and drums. Interesting arpeggios going on in that rhythm section there with the high strings, and then you've got the drums with the occasional fills and the filtered toms.
Wrong, but it goes on and there's nothing I can say.
Oh, that's charming.
I would
The mixing of the vocals.
I've done whatever you tell me to, and I think we always knew. You say it's done, but it'll never be over.
You say it's done, but it'll never be older. Be able to be over, should I say? Bleed.
Days go by, wishing that
Nice
I finally
adjustment with the strings here.
wishing that I died. You have changed if I'd been your martyr.
I like those fourth harmonies going on there occasionally with the vocals. It sounds like it adds an extra bit of tension there that's not, you know, in addition to what the strings are going with these sort of held notes. There's a sense of unease
All the
there.
times I've cried, wishing we could be alone together. I can't even hide. In fact, I hope we make it to forever. I will bleed for you.
There's a little bit of pumping in the mix. I don't know whether that's like an intentional stylistic decision or not. It was quite loud. It's quite loud. I don't. That's fine. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's still got a great sense of musicality to it, and I do like the leveling of the different instruments.
I do whatever you tell me to, and I think we always knew. You say it's done, but it'll never be over.
You say it's done, but it'll never be over. So it just sounds like someone's never trying to let go of something, but the pain will never stop. I'll just keep bleeding. Nice to have the bass a little more risen here. A little bit of space for that's nice. Oh, guitar solo now. Yeah, that kick comes in quite strong, doesn't it? Kind of side chains everything whether it intends to do it that much or not.
I would bleed for you. I've done whatever you tell me to, and I think we'd always knew. You say we're done, but it'll never be over. I am.
Damn. This doesn't sound like a very healthy relationship, doesn't it?
I'm done doing everything that you tell me.
Oh, okay, so they do develop beyond that. Cool. That's good to know.
Say it's done, but it'll never be
Nice to look at the strings, the bass, the drums, and guitar, and everything. It's a nice collection of different elements, and it sounded very full, especially during those chorus sections. And a little bit of a slow fade out going on here, just to finish it eloquently. Okay, alright, we'll have a look through the lyrics and we'll do the conclusion. We've got I'll make these bigger on the screen. That might be visible, I'm not sure. Hopefully it is somewhat, anyways. I'm just gonna read through these, and then I'll sort of comment on them as I go. You know, I think lines like, wishing that I died, would you have changed if I had been your martyr? I mean, that's incredibly dark and kind of cruel, isn't it? It's visceral, you know. I think there'll be people that will be able to relate to a story like this. They might have been in relationships or positions where they have been sort of feeling similar, and they'll go, you know, like, I don't know if that'll necessarily be like a positive association, but nonetheless, you might find some comfort within knowing someone else is going through what you're going through, you know, even if it'd be more ideal for nobody to be going through it. I liked how the last part of this, I would have bled for you, I've done everything that you tell me. I like that we eventually inevitably get to a point where we don't accept the abuse anymore. And then it's a great development there. I mean, well done with the lyrics. That it's a clear story, easy to follow. This is the conclusion of my review of Bleed by the Despair Collective. I think that going in this direction with kind of this like old acoustic rock is a good decision for them. There's a lot of saturation in rock and metal at the moment. And while I enjoyed listening to your say, I also enjoyed listening to Bleed. It's nice to know that the Despair Collective can do more than one type of genre of music. You know, the story suited the sad strings and the guitar parts and the foundational bass and the supported drums really, really well. I think there was a great chemistry between the different elements of the mix, and the story was still told by the vocalist, you know. He had an interesting tone to his voice. I don't necessarily think it would work for every single kind of music, but for this one where it's more sort of like kind of vulnerable and fragile, I think that approach there works really, really well. It does kind of sound like he's crying out and simultaneously done with the situation, so it's very authentic in that regard. I can only imagine this may have come from personal experience for them, so if it has, I hope they're in a better place now. Although judging by the last part, it may be the case. And we hit the right notes we needed to, and the harmonies were welcome as well. We didn't oversaturate the mix with the vocals. We allowed room for the other instruments and elements of the mix, and I think that was well arranged. The structure of it was your traditional kind of like verse, chorus kind of vibe with instrumental bits, including a guitar solo and everything like that with clean guitars. I think having a distorted guitar might have been a little bit too much, although that might have also been fun. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes going from like a complete transition from like rock and metal to like the kind of acoustic stuff can be quite a blunt change there, can be a big swing. But I suppose, you know, the Despair Collective are trying to find their ground, their niche, and they're exploring the boundaries, and I wish them the best luck in doing so. It was nonetheless performed really, really well. I've got no complaints about the music performance itself. There was enough change throughout, especially the development of strings in the latter half, to keep it sounding fresh, and I think overall it was well staged and structured. And, you know, like with the production, the recording, mixing, and mastering, you know, the EQing and the effects chains and the stereo panning instruments was great. And there was nice filtering, everything sat well on the mix. Sometimes that kick was quite aggressive and it thumped and it went boom, and there was a noticeable effect on the other instruments to the point where I feel like it may have been a little bit too much over the side chaining in there, and I know that that's a difficult balance to get. Most of the time it was fine. Maybe we were deliberately going for a more forceful dramatic entrance to certain sections, like the start of a chorus or something, but it was just, I feel it was a bit too much. We could have maybe reduced the amount of effect that side chaining had on like the bass and other parts of the song. But I mean, aside from that, it was nice and loud without too much pumping. It still reserved its dynamic range. It was still had that contemporary, professional kind of loudness to it, perceived loudness to it. And yeah, we're still going and we're still growing. And overall, I'm very happy with Bleed by the Despair Collective. Again, hopefully they're in a better place now, but I appreciate the opportunity to review their work, more of their work. Thank you very much for watching this review of the Despair Collective's Bleed. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias, and I'm sure this will be on all digital streaming platforms. I know they have a YouTube page as well, so I'll link them in there. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.